Hello, Mr. Hoffman. How you doing?
Yes, I'm doing good. I just had a shave and I got fresh coffee. Agnes, my wife, and all seems to be right with the world for right now, right the moment anyway. I called you to thank you for obtaining that forensic expert ID name and stuff from Quantico, Virginia back in the day. I forgot to say that yesterday when I was talking with you. I was so wound up on other things, but it seems that we're moving in the right direction. Have you been able to view the news commentary on that retirements that he went through there?
I did see the video of Dr. Frederick Whitehurst. He was very disgusted with the FBI crime labs, and they
Yes.
were manufacturing evidence in order to get prosecutions. And he won like $1 million or $2 million lawsuit against them. So he's a very important whistleblower within the FBI that was exposing the corruption within the FBI.
Yes. Now, what was his name again? Say it for me so that I can remember it. Because when I first heard it, I was doing beadwork, and I was at Walla Walla, and I remember seeing it on the TV, and I stopped the beadwork and got up and saw it and flipped through the channels to see what channels it was all on, and it was on all four of the major channels at the time, which was ABC, CBS, NBC, and CNN. CNN had just started into political news broadcasting in
Yeah.
that arena there, and it was a very, very good thing. What is his doctor?
It's a Dr. Frederick Whitehurst. And
Whitehurst.
yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Well, when you say it, and I think back, yes, that's correct. Then, so I guess my 70-year-old memory isn't quite as bad as I think it is sometimes.
No, you did a very good job, and I'm glad you told me to look him up because he's a very important figure to know about because I have problems with the FBI and the way that they do handle a lot of things, and he's very important to know about, and his life story is very important.
Well, what he was outlining when he was saying that he was retiring from them at that time was that he was giving all attorneys, defense attorneys, notice that had anything to do with any FBI materials that was used as case material against them or their clients was to ferret out everything, because this went back to before Leonard Peltier's alleged crime, and it went past my dad and I's alleged crime, and those were all included in that. He said at least 50 or more cases had that type of work done to it. So, with that being said, that supports even more the fact that the weapon in question was discovered. It was found not to be the weapon, and it was found to be destroyed, or found that it had to be destroyed in order for the prosecution to carry out its judicial prejudice of claiming that we were guilty and we knew it because we destroyed the weapon, and that's not true.
Yeah, yeah. He did say there was there was a pattern of misconduct within the FBI crime lab, and everybody needs to know about Dr. Frederick Whitehurst. He has a very important whistleblower story to tell.
Well, I thank you for finding that, and I appreciate and applaud you on the way you continue to conduct yourself in a good, godly manner.
Well, I appreciate that. You spent over 30 years in prison. You know, Patrick, and it's heartbreaking that you've had to do this. And I know we live in a world that is just turned upside down. You know.
Yeah. Well, with a little help from God and others, we're going to turn this around again.
Yeah.
Because this, when I first got to prison, there was one that had been there for 15, 20 years already when I first got into prison. And he said that the pendulum swings back and forth for us prisoners. And for some reason, and he couldn't put his finger on it at the time, but the pendulum hadn't swung back to where it was on the far swing against us. It's discrimination and everything that has to do with discrimination, and on the other side, it was the governor at the time, Dixie Lee Ray, was governor and trying to make prisons more agreeable in society and allow prisoners to do good things outside the prison walls. And she had developed furloughs for different ones, but the DOC, with their mismanagement and stuff, allowed the ones that would take away the act of furlough and stuff, they allowed them to go out, and they wouldn't return when they were supposed to, and this and that. And they didn't. This was before they had ankle bracelets with monitoring systems on it and things like that. And so they had to chase down a couple of prisoners that they knew would do this, and this has been the DOC policy all the way along. If they want something to be taken away from prisoners, they allow somebody that's going to break the rules to do that, and then they make everybody else pay for the breakage also. When the rule is in effect and it works properly, it catches those who are going to break the rules or do break the rules, and allow the other ones to continue down the path to try to get their freedom and stuff. DOC doesn't want anybody to be free. They don't want to work themselves out of a job. They don't do a job in the first place, but they don't want it to look like they're not doing a job. They want it to look like they're doing a job by doing deceitful, discriminatory acts against prisoners. And that's the way they've done it all the time. I've told you before about, I mentioned Mary Bush being a custodial officer, and there's been others in the process when Lieutenant Pease tried to have me go to a GED class in order for the Department of Corrections to gain money for me attending the GED class, even though I had college courses and had proof of that. And he proceeded to threaten me that he was going to have me thrown in the hole and beaten and maybe even killed. So I formed a lawsuit to get around that. And during that time, when I was taken before the captain, Captain Morgan, there happened to be a piece of paper tacked up to a coat rack or uniform rack door on the inside, and the door was open. And it had on there a letter from Washington State Governor Gary Locke at the time, allowing them in a memorandum to shoot on sight anybody that was fighting, whether they were perpetrators or defendants. And there was at least 4 people shot to death there before they got that stopped. And during that time, under Mr. Morgan's administration, there were at least 2 more people killed in the hole, supposedly from drug overdoses. Well, when you're locked up, the only way you can get drugs into your cell is if some officer brings them to you. And if they're doing that on that watch, then they're culpable. They're responsible for it. That's the state law. That's the federal law. And there's the instance of Kevin Boyle, who was supposedly bringing drugs into the institution by way of the visitor room, by way of a visitor. Yet when the officer in the visit room attacked the visitor that was in question, and there was no drugs found, and they tried to proceed with a lawsuit or a criminal action against Kevin Boyle to try to find him guilty of introducing contraband into the prison. Well, we stood for that. Those of us that were at the visiting room, we became witnesses in the case, and we told him that there was a proper manner that these officers should have taken that they chose not to. This officer jumped at the female and reached down the front of her blouse into her bra, trying to grasp something, and that made Kevin go off, and he punched the officer and put him back in his place. Now they tried to get him for an assault on an officer and this and that, and when we got through testifying, my wife then, Penny Hoffman, also testified, and she's a court clerk, and her testimony was impeccable. And there were others there that were at the visit that day that testified in there, and the end result was that Kevin was charges against him were dismissed. So the DOC then turned around and transported him to Arizona, where within 6 weeks' time he was stabbed to death in the yard at prison there. And a phone call from Mr. Morgan's office to that prison, at least one phone call. And actually there were 7 or 8 that I'm aware of, because we had people looking at that on the outside that had the ability to chase down these calls, where they were from and where they went to.
Let me quickly say, I've been in this prison ministry for several years, Mr. Hoffman, and I'm aware of several suspicious deaths in prison. One guy supposedly hung himself when he was going to get out very, very soon. His family does not believe he was suicidal. I'm aware of various other prisoners that supposedly killed themselves in the hole or was absolutely murdered by other prisoners. It goes on all the time. I think there's a terrible, terrible situation going on in this country.
Yes.
You know, we have more prisoners in China. We don't have anything. America doesn't have anything more than China, but America has more prisoners than China. Yeah. So.
Well, Chinese are very feudal about their gold, and they've got gold in their banks and stuff that go back hundreds of centuries. I'm thinking back to the Qin dynasty, which China took its name from. So that in itself tells me that there's good there, even though there's greed there. At least the Chinese in their beliefs and stuff, they're honest enough to know the Buddhist promise of an afterlife and reincarnation and things like that we take upon ourselves as being fact. Now, with Agnes and I, we both know that in our case it is fact, because we have genetic memories that go back before our birth in this life and remember each other. So.
Well, I look forward when you can get out of prison and visit Agnes.
Well, we the intent, I've talked to Agnes already about this ranch, this 62 or 67 acres that's in Texas, there, Fort Worth area, that is still available to my knowledge through the Western Horseman and stuff. And I don't have any way to put anything down on it now, but if it's still there, when I get out and when I get the damages owed me, there will be enough to be able to put down on that, and it will be our home. So I'm looking at that as one possibility. Plus, we're going to keep Agnes's place in Brussels, Belgium, because it reminds me of the fairy tale Rapunzel, a blonde-haired girl that was kept in a tower. Agnes is in the 19th floor of her apartment building,
I see.
in the highest place in the land. She's on the tallest hill in Brussels, in Belgium, and she's in almost on the top of one of the towers on that land. So she's my Rapunzel.
That's great. Yeah, you're very blessed to have someone who loves you like she does.
Yes, she's working diligently as we speak to fashion the proper paperwork to send to this judge in this matter of the no contact order that they're requesting and stuff. So I'm having her request the judge to view everything from start to finish, from my first call to you, from Agnes's first call to you, all the way to now, and see that we've never once made threats against these individuals, and in fact, they're the ones that's trying to manipulate a situation to take away my constitutional right, freedom of speech, and to promote my innocence. They want to stop that, and that's not going to happen. Regardless of what comes out of this thing here, I still have a right to say I'm innocent. Whether I'm innocent or not, that is not a matter in there. If I'm lying, the proof is there. If I'm telling the truth is also there for that. And I'm quite sure that there is enough proof to show with everything that I've talked to you about in the years that we've had contact already, that everything that I've said to you has been truthful.
Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind, Mr. Hoffman, but the devils, we've got over 2.3 million people in prison in America, and the devils want you guys locked away, and they don't want to hear from you. Instead of like arguing the facts based on the evidence, they just want to silence you because they have evil, wicked hearts.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it serves the devil to have innocent people incarcerated, because he has an opportunity to change their heart from serving God to serving him. And that's
You have 60 seconds remaining.
Those of us that know, don't ever let it happen, because it doesn't matter if they cut this body into a million pieces. It will never change my spirit.
Amen.
My heart.
Yeah, amen. Amen, Mr. Hoffman.
So, you have a good day.
All right, you're in our prayers. God bless.
Yes.
You have 30 seconds remaining.
By the way,
be safe.
Be safe, Mr. Hoffman. There is a letter headed your way. I hope you get it soon.
Okay.
All right, God bless.
Take care.
Okay, God bless.
Good hearing you.
All right, good hearing you. Bye-bye.